I like to watch.
Shh.
You want to tell me what this is all about?
Inspirational teacher movies. As a teacher myself, it's pretty painful for me to see how educators are portrayed on film. The characterizations range from mildly irritating and cheesy to pandering and insulting.
Bueller. Bueller.
You ready to get this party going on? What's the dealio?
That said, there are a few movies that get it right. I want to talk about 5 movie teachers whose classes I would take in a heartbeat.
Daniel-san.
My first choice is an easy one, Mr. Miyagi. As teachers, we know that students can question our methods for quite some time before the lesson sinks in. Hell, we all do that. It's part of being human. We don't like to be pushed, and we certainly don't want to be told repeatedly to do something if we can see no immediate benefit to doing so. But just as Daniel realizes that wax on, wax off is less about doing chores and more about learning moves, so do we allow the knowledge of our elders to click with us, eventually.
Catch! Catch! Catch!
Failing? You know what's weird about your quizzes, Katie, is that all the work is right and just the answers are wrong.
Miss Norbury in Mean Girls reminds us that teachers are human too, and that we have trials and tribulations that exist outside of lesson plans and classrooms. Imagine that. She even demonstrates one of those awkward interactions we have with students we run into in public. By the same token, Miss Norbury taps into the underlying issues of girl world, as they call it in this movie, finally providing a voice of reason that even the plastics will listen to. She's tough, she's funny, she's quirky, she's sympathetic, and, above all, she's real.
I want you to raise your hand if you have ever said anything about a friend behind her back. It's been some girl-on-girl crime here. Katie, I know that having a boyfriend may seem like the most important thing in the world right now, but you don't have to dumb yourself down to get guys to like you.
How do you know?
I know. How would I know, right?
These journals are very important to this class, so do not forget them. You will need to use them every day that you are here. They are the key to this class. It's 9:07, Joanne. You're
You
late.
the one who said breakfast is the most important meal of
Tomorrow,
the day?
that door will be locked at 9 o'clock.
On the surface, Miss Rain falls into the same trappings of cliché teacher movies. However, there's a subtle bit of reality that sets her apart. Yes, she works with underprivileged kids, mostly minorities, but she knows how to speak to them. She works with kids who have nowhere else to turn, whose time in this school could be a matter of literal life and death. She does an extreme version of one of the most difficult acts of teaching, showing love and compassion to kids who are in some cases the hardest to even like.
Beat me, rape me, call me an animal, make me feel worthless, make me sick.
That wasn't love, Precious. Your baby loves you. I love you.
The werewolf with particular emphasis on recognizing it.
Sir, it's Quidditch tomorrow.
Then I suggest you take extra care, Mr. Potter.
Professor Snape embodies something that all teachers face at some point. He must be the villain to do the right thing. He knows he's unpopular. He even relishes this fact at times, but he never softens. He's doing his job, and he's often doing the parts of the job everyone else is too afraid to do. He accepts being hated in exchange for being right. Of course, Alan Rickman does such an impeccable job of playing Snape that, even at his nastiest, it's impossible for me not to adore him.
There will be no foolish wand-waving or silly incantations in this class. As such, I don't expect many of you to appreciate the subtle science and exact art that is potion making. However, for those select few who possess the predisposition, I can teach you.
W-A-T-E-R, water. It has a name. W-A-T.
In real life, Anne Sullivan was one of the most influential teachers of all time, having led Helen Keller out of her dark, silent world by teaching her to communicate. Anne Bancroft's portrayal in The Miracle Worker shows us a persistent, strong demeanor, one that is likely accurate to the real Sullivan, who would have needed this determination to accomplish what she did. Where Helen's parents coddle her, Anne refuses to let her settle for less than she's capable of, even if it leads to physical conflict. It's one of the greatest looks at tough love ever captured on screen, and one of the most inspirational stories of all time. So since these five brilliant minds are kind of the exception in Hollywood and culture at large, what are teachers really like? Well, in the spirit of 2-cent cinema, I'm going to borrow and adapt a quote from a classic John Hughes movie. Dear Hollywood, we accept the fact that we had to sacrifice our entire reputation in your movies for whatever it was we did wrong. But we think you're crazy to write a movie telling us who you think we are. You see us as you want to see us, in the simplest terms, in the most convenient definitions. But what we found out is that each one of us is a sensei, a real person, a second chance, a wizard, and a miracle worker. Does that answer your question? Sincerely, teachers everywhere. See you next time for 2-cent cinema.
How do I reach these kids?